It's a disease that can be debilitating and can be caught right in your own backyard. Lyme disease affects thousands of Canadians, and likely many more don't even realize they have it. CTV's Celine joins us live with a special two-part report. Celine.
Thanks, Sasha. A tick can be as small as a speck of dirt, and such a little bug can cause a large problem. That's exactly what happened to one London teen whose life was turned upside down because of Lyme disease.
Here's what he spent his days doing, and we just hope he can get back to some kind of life again.
A case full of trophies highlighting the skilled hockey player Brandon Barnett was. His mother, Lisa, will never forget the last game he played.
He just wasn't himself. You know, he seemed disoriented, and then at the end of the game he ran out and said, "I have to find a washroom right away."
Lisa and Brandon's dad, Dan, assumed Brandon had a stomach bug and that life would get back to normal soon. But that wasn't the case as they watched their son get more and more sick.
Just one thing after another, and we were like, what could possibly be going on? Like, what can be happening? What can be affecting his whole system like this?
From family physicians to specialists and numerous tests, Brandon's health continued to decline, and there was no definitive answer as to why.
Getting frustrated and worried and wondering what's going on. You start seeing things slip away. Wondering what's going to happen long term.
Finally, 2 years after Brandon left that hockey game feeling sick, it was determined he has Lyme disease.
Oh, thank goodness. Like, we know at least we are going to get some support. We're going to get some answers and help for him. And that's where we didn't have any clue that that wouldn't be the case.
The Barnetts found out they would end up being like many other Canadians who have to travel to the U.S. for medical care and treatments due to a lack of support here.
We looked everywhere. We looked within London, we looked within Toronto, within Ontario, within Canada. So we went out west to BC and traveled down to Washington, D.C. and traveled to India for therapy.
And there's hundreds, thousands of people now crossing the border, you know, to try to get help for this.
Not only has it been a frustrating journey, but a costly one too.
We have probably spent somewhere in the neighborhood of $200,000 to $250,000 in the past 6 years on searching for answers and treatments.
It's been 6 years and Brandon is still struggling daily with numerous symptoms and pains. He's housebound most days and hasn't been able to go back to school since.
The hardest part is he says to us, just get me better. You know, he wanted to get back to hockey, he wanted to get back to his life, and you don't have the answers.
One of the answers Lisa and Dan would like is why did it take 2 years to diagnose their son? 2 years, they believe, made his chances of recovery slim.
Until there's accurate diagnosis, there's not going to be ownership, there's not going to be accurate treatment.
Change needs to happen, whether it's with quicker diagnosis and proper treatment plans, but also I find with the healthcare system there needs to be more collaboration between the doctors.
The Barnetts continue to fight for their son with the hopes that one day Brandon can go back to being the active and healthy person he once was.
It's just getting him to the stage where he can be functional again. He can get his schooling, he can all the things that kids his age are doing, hang out with his friends, go to school, you know, get his license, whatever it is.
As mentioned in the story, the family even traveled to India and Brandon underwent stem cell therapy, but unfortunately it didn't help much, which has left the Barnetts still searching for help.
So frightening. Thank you for shedding light on this. I understand tomorrow was part 2. What can we expect?
Yes, so tomorrow we'll be speaking to researchers, a researcher who's a tick and Lyme expert, as well as finding out what government officials are doing to help Canadians who are looking for answers that have Lyme disease.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks. Celine. Brandon Barnett has been battling Lyme disease for 6 years. We introduced you to him during our newscast last night. Brandon's parents have been searching for answers, treatment, and support ever since his diagnosis with little to no help. Today, in part 2 of this special report, CTV's Celine introduces us to an expert who is calling Lyme disease a healthcare crisis. Brandon Barnett's life was turned upside down 6 years ago when he contracted Lyme disease.
It's been a nightmare. Yeah, it's definitely been a nightmare.
His parents, Dan and Lisa, have watched their son's health decline. So much so, he hasn't been to school in 6 years and has a list of debilitating health issues.
He has lots of pains and aches and insomnia, and the list goes on and on.
That's why the Barnetts are speaking out to raise awareness and push for change when it comes to Lyme disease, a disease one researcher has spent close to 30 years studying.
There's quite a strong push here in Ontario.
Dr. John Scott, a researcher in Fergus, Ontario, has been recognized nationally and internationally for his multiple studies surrounding ticks and Lyme disease.
It's just not one or two ticks that are vectors in Canada. There are at least 6 that can bite humans and transmit the infection.
Dr. Scott tracks tick activity across the country, especially here in Ontario, where he says ticks that carry the Lyme infection can easily be found across the province, including the London area.
We had a wildlife rehabilitator that was in St. Thomas, and she sent me a lot of ticks from that area, and we had a lot of different ticks that were testing positive.
But despite his years of research, even winning a Governor General's Award for his work, Dr. Scott believes the medical community isn't taking Lyme disease serious enough.
We've got a healthcare crisis right across Canada. We have to get the physicians up and running and knowledgeable about this disease.
London West MPP Peggy Sattler agrees, saying her party continues to push the provincial government for changes when it comes to diagnosing and treatment for Lyme,
so that people don't have to leave the province in order to access the healthcare professionals that have that knowledge. We should have that knowledge.
The Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care says it's been working with the federal government on new initiatives surrounding Lyme disease. In an email statement to CTV, the ministry says, Lyme disease can be difficult to diagnose as its symptoms are often similar to those of other illnesses. The science and clinical management of this complex illness continues to evolve. The ministry is continuously engaging with the medical community to promote improved diagnosis, care, treatment, and support for people living with Lyme disease. However, for those suffering with Lyme disease like Deb Krunican, change can't happen soon enough.
Very insidious bacteria that affects your brain, it affects your heart, it affects your muscles, your joints, so many areas of your body.
Krunican started a support and action group called Living with Lyme, London and Middlesex.
We want to make a change in this. This is not a situation that's getting any better in our country, and there's so much denial happening, and really from our local perspective, we just want to raise awareness to Londoners that there is Lyme, and we don't want anyone to be told there isn't.
As Deb, Dr. Scott, and politicians push for change, so do the Barnetts, who hope no other child has to go through what Brandon has.
The hardest thing for me is seeing what he has given up and what he's lost.
Celine Moreau, CTV News.
Great series. Thank you, Celine.